Hey everyone, welcome back. I know I've been out a while. I wasn't really feeling like there was anything I wanted to go over, I wanted to say or get into and explain. And so I wasn't really motivated to make videos for a while now. But I'm starting to see sort of a series and maybe a pathway back to kind of getting more consistent and getting some videos out there for you guys again. Lately I've been finding, actually for the last number of months, I really kind of started to listen to myself during my bike fits, and I tend to be saying very similar things to many clients in just different ways, kind of tailored to the client and what their particular issues on the bike are. And so what I've realized though is that the things I'm kind of running through and the instructions and guidelines I'm giving are really just basic, very good, I think very simple guidelines and instructions and reasonings as to why we're making the changes and what direction we're headed with a particular fitting and why we're doing it. So I'm going to be kind of going through my most common ones that I run through with clients here, and I'm going to start today with what we talk about when we're talking about knee extension. And as a result, like when we're talking about knee extension, we're talking about saddle height as one of the things we're talking about, one of the main things. So as always, when we're doing any sort of measurement, we're not trying to fit everyone into the same exact position. We have to tailor it again to the individual. And for knee extension, there is a range that's, I guess you could say, acceptable or sort of the norm. And it should be known, like, there's going to be times when we need to set people outside of that range for various reasons. But that range of extension is from 35 degrees to 45 degrees. And now what this number is that's 35 degrees from full extension. So the knee being fully straight, it's actually at 35, that means it's bent 35 degrees. That would be a higher overall saddle height, roughly. And at 45 degrees, we're talking about a lower overall saddle height because the knee is bent more when the pedal is at the bottom, when we're at the bottom of the pedal stroke. And so why is it important? Now, you'll hear a lot of people often go right to, well, it helps with knee pain. You're gonna have knee pain if you have the wrong saddle height. And this isn't, it's not untrue, but it's not the whole story. It also has to do with efficiency. We want muscle balance while we're pedaling, and having the wrong saddle height can preferentially engage certain muscle groups over others, and it's usually the quadriceps that it's preferential to, because cycling in and of itself is somewhat inhibitory to hip extensors and glute activation already. So it's harder for us often to engage our glute muscles on the bike. But what I want to talk about today, the thing that I think gets overlooked and is really sort of a good way to explain what's going on when you have the wrong saddle height, has to do with weight bearing. Because on the bike, we're contacting this thing at really 5 different spots, both hands, both feet, and then at the saddle. And if we are not bearing weight, and if we don't have the right weight distribution through our feet at any particular time through the pedal stroke, then that weight has to go somewhere. It's going to go to the saddle, or it's going to go to the hands, or both. So let's talk about the two extremes, let's say. So let's say our saddle is too high, okay? That would be maybe someone's saddle height, the number the knee extension number we're getting is 33 degrees from full extension. It could be somewhere even in the range. It could be 36, could be too high for a particular individual. But anyways, we're too high for whomever this is. What ends up happening in regards to weight bearing is when the saddle's too high, we tend to lose contact, or as I often tell my clients, we lose connection with the pedal at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Now, it's only momentary, and of course, we're actually still attached to the pedal because of our clip ends, but we lose that little bit of weight bearing at the bottom of the pedal stroke, and that adds up when we're pedaling at 80 to 90 RPMs. And so that weight, preferentially, it usually goes directly to the saddle. So these people that come in with a saddle that's too high, they often have saddle discomfort is one of their big complaints. But don't get too far ahead, because incidentally, you can have saddle discomfort because your saddle is too low as well. More on that later. Now, it's kind of easy to see this when we lose a little bit of connection with the pedal at the bottom of the stroke, and we're reaching for the pedals because the saddle's too high. You know, you can kind of see the pelvis would probably rock more, and we're getting more shear forces through the soft tissue where we're contacting the saddle. But the big thing is that we are actually losing contact with the pedal. We're kind of losing that ability to fully weight bear, and so we get essentially more weight thrown to the seat. So now let's go in the other extreme, and this one's kind of harder to see. Let's say the saddle is too low. This can also cause decreased weight bearing through the pedals themselves. And the key to this is to kind of understand that the ankle has a posture. When we're at the bottom of the pedal stroke, the ankle has a posture where it can, for lack of a better way of putting it, it can lock out. It can actually be very stable as it carries through the bottom of the pedal stroke. We can kind of lock out the foot because we have a lot of joints in the foot that can, if they're loose, then we're going to get a lot of motion through there. We don't want that. We want that to be a very rigid lever that we're pushing through. And the ankle itself, we want it to be relatively stable, very, very relatively stiff, you might say. And this happens when we're kind of in a posture, you could call it like a toe down posture, anywhere from about 10 to 25 degrees. That's kind of where it starts. And so when we're outside of this range, if we drop that heel below and we're at 5 degrees, or that heel is very low, the ankle and the foot will be very loose. There's a lot of motion through them and they can't stabilize. You can feel this when you do, say, toe raises. If you put your toes on a block and you're dropping below level to do heel raises, I should say. When you get up and those heels get up above the toes, just a couple, like an inch or two, and we're in that, say, 10 to 15 degree range of toe down, you can kind of feel the ankle get real stable. It can lock out and you can hang out there for a long time. Most people are very strong there. It's very stable, and the foot itself is kind of locked as well. The joints of the foot are, and that is sort of a throwback to how our foot functions during gait. When we get past mid stance and that heel starts to come up, the foot needs to lock out so that we have a rigid lever to push from, to get through toe off. So again, saddle being too high or too low, you can kind of lose connection or lose weight bearing through the bottom of pedal stroke.